Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tribal Council podcast, where on this podcast, Survivor represents our life, and when it's gone, so are we. We just got finished with episode 10 of Survivor, and we're going to go through each of the players in order of who I think is most likely to win. I have my co-host with me here today, Connor.
Hello.
Jessica could not make it yet again. Unfortunately, just timing didn't work out, but hopefully she'll be here for the next episode. And yeah, we had quite an interesting episode, that's for sure. And I guess we can sort of just talk about that by getting into our first player, Juwan Pitts. Pretty unfortunate the way that Juwan ended up going. It was quite an eventful tribal council with one of Juwan's allies playing an idol on the wrong person, and then Rizzo fake playing his idol and then not playing it, and then Savannah using her extra vote when she didn't technically need to, but it makes sense considering she would have if they didn't throw a random vote on Rizzo. And it was just a whole mess at tribal, and unfortunately Juwan ended up being caught in the crossfire. Sort of took a stray. What's funny is Juwan probably wouldn't have gone home here if Christina didn't have her idol. So that's definitely unfortunate for him. But what do you think about the circumstances surrounding Juwan's elimination?
I think it's very unfortunate because I grew to be quite a Juwan fan by the end of this his run in this season, and he was just a very likable guy. He was a very fun character. He had his fun moments. Obviously, he had some moments where he was a little dislikable or a little less fun, right off the bat, taking someone's bag and using it, and then apparently repeating this multiple times. Just isn't really a great Survivor move, or necessarily a great people move, but, kind of thing that you could honestly just say, chalk it up as a genuine mistake. It happens, and then, pushed on. And thankfully for him, it ended up not impacting his game then, but, now he's unfortunately eliminated, and it just came down to just bouncing back and forth too many times without gaining enough trust from both sides to still being able to capably do this for a long time. So, it is what it is. Juwan kind of got what was coming in the sense that if you play the middle for too long, it typically doesn't always end well.
Yeah, taking out Nate and then flipping back to the Ulis to take out MC and Alex, and then trying to flip back to the other side to take out Savannah, and just there's a reason he wasn't particularly trusted, and then just the fact that the two people that he was trying to flip back to, one of them had an idol and the other one was that person's closest ally, and there's definitely a serious threat of Christina playing the idol on Steven, obviously, seeing as she did, and the other side just clocked that and sort of went with the strategy of choosing a third option, which is a strategy that I feel like is underutilized on Survivor. People do a lot of splitting the votes and whatnot, but not a lot of just kind of last second choosing to sort of switch to the third option, the option that Christina was never going to play her idol on Juwan. That was never really a consideration, so yeah, just unfortunate for Juwan here. But then we move on to the person who, yet again, I think has the lowest chance of winning the game out of everyone left. Christina Mills. Christina got 5 confessionals this episode, which isn't too bad. She's been getting a decent amount more content in the last couple episodes, but I don't know. Her content this episode mostly revolved around her just being upset that she had been blindsided at the previous tribal. And I don't know. I just don't know if that's necessarily the greatest content in the world. And then, we sort of see her try to maybe create inroads with Savannah, and it just doesn't work because Savannah already knows that she's being targeted. Everyone finds out about Christina's idol, and that is not great for her at all. She ends up misplaying it technically, and that's not great. So, just a lot of unfortunate situations for her, and a lot of negative content after a pretty long stretch of not getting much content at all. It's very difficult to imagine her moving up on this list at all.
Yeah, I mean, technically every week Christina moves up by process of someone going home, but that's pretty much the most that she's going to continue to move up for a while, and possibly ever, really. Because unfortunately, yeah, basically anytime something good goes, or good happens for Christina, something goes her way, something bad proceeds to happen right after that that tanks everything that we just witnessed. You know, she found an idol. A couple episodes later, she misplays it, and everyone finds out about it right before Tribal, so that, you know, it can't be used correctly.
Mm-hmm.
They finally get numbers after the merge, and looks like things might be going good, and then all of a sudden things flip around, and she loses 2 of her 3 best allies. So, like, you know, things just don't seem to go Christina's way, and that's just part of the reality of Survivor, is things aren't going to always go your way. It's how you bounce back from them and keep moving forward. So, yeah, maybe Christina could turn things around, but it would take a lot of things to turn around for things to really be winnable for Christina. And I mean, just the editing content, if we're looking from the reality standpoint, it's not giving us any legitimate hope that Christina could actually win this game.
Unfortunately, and it just feels like any episode now she could just go home and it wouldn't really ever be much of a surprise.
Yeah, it's pretty much a given next episode. Unless something crazy shakes up, it's probably just Christina or Steven, depending on circumstances.
Maybe Sage, maybe Soph makes a big move and takes out Rizzo or Savannah, but it's kind of hard to see. It's hard to see that happening, to be honest. Moving on to another player who, again, has had a pretty good episode. It's just, after she's been at the bottom of this list for so long that it's just going to take a little bit more, I think, for her to claw her way up maybe a spot, maybe. But I have Sophie Segretti. I think she made a decent move here in taking out Jawan. I don't think Jawan was ever really someone who was super loyal to Sophie, and you know, I think she could have a decent position in that alliance with Rizzo, Savannah, and Soph. I mean, she's a strong challenge competitor. She has made strategic moves in this game. So if she can make it to the end, I do see her as somebody who could potentially be a threat. I just don't think the edit is there for her. She's just had such an abysmal pre-merge edit that it's really hard to imagine her winning with an edit like that in the pre-merge, but her post-merge edit, all things considered, has been pretty solid. So it's kind of an interesting situation. Kind of have to wonder if, you know, maybe she could actually claw her way up to like a third last spot even. But or stay in the second last spot even if Christina goes. It really depends. Someone else would have to take a hit to their edit, and she would have to get another decent episode for that to happen, but it's definitely possible. I don't know. In terms of this episode, like, how do you feel about Sophie's decision to stick with Savannah and Rizzo?
I mean, in terms of the short term, and this definitely gives her a lot of options, because I feel like this is a very good situation where with 8 people, it isn't always the best time to crack things open and try and make that big move. You know, numbers are a little tight. Sometimes things can get a little iffy, advantages, etc., etc. So maybe just sticking with what seems safe for this vote probably is a good option in this case. And in terms of what it does for Sophie's game, it allows options to open up. But I mean, it's a pretty solid move. It was a pretty solid episode. Stays a couple confessionals ahead of Christina post merge, and I mean, a couple ahead of Soph post merge, but that's about it.
Mm.
So, like, game wise, I don't know that this episode being a pretty good episode, the vote going away, that's probably favorable for her. I don't know if that really changes much for Sophie, but at least it was a good episode for Sophie, and I mean, it's a favorable outcome in the end that opens up a lot of options.
She even has an extra confessional over Steven in the, if you're just counting post-merge confessionals now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
It's kind of crazy, but
yeah. Actually, post-merge confessionals, she also has more than even Rizzo, I believe, which is kind of insane to think about. But
oh yeah, she would absolutely for sure have more than Rizzo.
so yeah, no, I think
One
the
or
only
two more.
person, I think the only, yeah, more than Sage too, I believe. I think Savannah probably has
Sage,
more.
no. Sage and Savannah have the two most since the merge of players still in the game. Jawan had more as well.
Yeah, Sage has quite a few more, and then Savannah, with that 13 confessional episode, is gonna hold that spot for a while probably. So yeah, I mean, she's gotten a really good post merge edit. If I'm being honest, like things kind of go her way. She feels like she's in a good position. She gets a solid amount of content, but her pre-merge edit was just so abysmal that it's hard to have her any higher than this, even with everything that's happened with her edit since the merge. That being said, we did just mention Sage. So Sage, Aaron's Nichols. Now, obviously, this was not a good outcome for Sage by any means. She loses her closest ally, Jawan. She's just completely blindsided by it. She fails yet again to take out her rival in Savannah, and it's just not. It's just really not a good episode for Sage, unfortunately. I like Sage a lot. She's a good character, and she's definitely gotten a lot of content this season, and I'm happy with it. But yeah, she's in a pretty dire situation now, and she's really going to need to flip some votes her way to get rid of Savannah or Rizzo, and it's not going to be easy when they still have that idol, So, what do you think about Sage? What do you think about her prospects moving forward after losing her closest ally?
I mean, that pretty much tells the story of most Survivor players. When you lose your best ally, things are typically not very good. It is something that people recover from. Sometimes not. And I unfortunately think this is one of the situations we're looking at where they were such a good duo that it kind of worked out so much so in their favor for each other that once one of them left, it was kind of the end of their run. And I think that'll kind of be the case here for Sage. I don't imagine Sage makes it to the finale. And if they do, I don't think they'd make it there with much chance of really winning or going that far into the finale. But it is possible we could see Sage end up at a final tribal. I just don't see the world where it happens more than likely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, like, the losing finalist vibes are there. But it's just kind of, unless she, like, unless it's like Savannah and Rizzo, like one of those two doesn't win, or even Soph, like those three kind of get taken out, and Sage is in some sort of final three with like Steven, Christina, or Sophie, or like, I don't know. It's hard to imagine Savannah and Rizzo letting her get to the final three if they're going to need to continue to sort of control the game like they have been. So it's just kind of hard to see Sage winning when it's hard to see her even making it to the end. But that being said, another player who I think Well, actually, a player who I do think has a pretty good shot of making it to the end, but who I'm getting lower and lower on their chances of actually winning. We have Soph, and Soph got 4 confessionals this episode. But I'm gonna be honest, it didn't feel like she did. It kind of felt like she maybe got 2. You know what I mean? Like, mostly she talked about potentially playing her knowledge is power, which she didn't end up doing. And then I would say, like, her best content this episode was just talking about how they should go with whatever Sophie wants to do. And then obviously that's what they did, because Savannah wanted Sage, Sophie wanted Jawan, and they ended up settling on Jawan. But I don't know. Overall, Sophie B is kind of the opposite of Sophie S, where Sophie S had a terrible pre-merge edit, but a very solid post-merge edit. Sophie B so far had a really, really good pre-merge edit and just kind of not that great of a post-merge edit. Like, it's not terrible, but it's just very middling, and it's getting harder and harder to imagine her winning because of it. Unless things start to pick up, but I don't know. Do you have differing thoughts on Soph, or?
Not substantially, but I will add this. They have the least amount of confessionals since episode 4 of any player still left in the game, which is a crazy thing to come to, realizing that we're in episode 10 right now, that the only person that has less is, like, Christina, potentially, since episode 4, but just not really getting any substantial content from Soph anytime. Even if you look at the last 2 episodes, it's 5 and 4 confessionals, but really it felt like 5 total between the 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's like, oh, I might use my knowledge as power. Didn't. Ooh, let's do this thing that we were probably already going to do anyways. It happens. So it's like, it's still not necessarily negative content, but it's kind of nothing content. And it's just really not doing anything to make me think that I need to actually take what's being said on my screen and keep it in mind long term going forward, because, like, it's just really not leading to anything that you couldn't have already assumed would happen, or, you know, wouldn't have already known could be a possibility. We talked about the knowledge is power for probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes last episode, and how we thought it might get used because of something that happened. Not because it exists, but just because of a jury reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the entire thought of the knowledge is power at this point is not even like, oh, Sophie could use it, Sophie could not, you know, would it be more strategic? It's just like, we know it's there, but it's done nothing. It hasn't, like, really elevated her game yet. The option of using it's just been on the table for a while, and I'm almost getting to the point where I think she's going to try and, like, hold it until final trial and be like, I've had this and just never used it.
Yeah.
So, like,
which
that itself's kind of getting a little tiring as well.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say. I also just think it's not a great look, considering she didn't really have much to say about voting out Alex last episode, and then this episode she didn't really have much to say about it. Like, with the history that her and Alex had, for her to not really get any content about his elimination in the game is also just a really, like, not a great look. And, like, I thought after last episode, maybe at least we would get something this episode of her talking about how, like, it sucked to lose somebody who she grew so close to during the, like, pre-swap portion of the game, but we just didn't get that, so I don't know. Her edit's kind of taking a nosedive a little bit, but now, for somebody who dropped quite a decent bit last episode, but kind of climbed back up despite the fact that this episode didn't go particularly well for him, I have Steven Ram, and again, him being this high on the list really is just purely based on his edit. Just the amount of, like, really solid content that he's got. You know, like, it doesn't, like, on paper it doesn't look like he's getting a lot, but when you're watching the episode, he has such a major presence. I mean, this episode he did have the most confessionals, but just overall, he doesn't have the most confessionals. He, in fact, has the third least, and yet he feels like such a major presence on the season. And I just think that's a really strong sign for him. The last 3 votes haven't really gone very well for him, so it is pretty hard to see him winning. Like, I don't really know if he makes it to final 3 what his pitch is going to be after losing MC and then Alex and then Juwan back to back to back, but maybe if he gets to the end with Christina, and I mean, I don't know. It's rough. Maybe Christina and Savannah, if people are really bitter towards Savannah, might vote for Steven. That's logically, there just aren't a lot of reasons to imagine him winning, but the edit that he's gotten has been pretty solid overall, and that's kind of mostly what these rankings are based off of for me. So I don't know. What do you think, Steve? What do you think about Steven? Do you think, like, is there a path for him?
I'll start with my path for Steven, and I get into kind of my thoughts. My path for Steven, I think, as crazy as it might be, is probably a Christina Soap final. I think that's the best world where he wins. And it's really just not really a very great one, honestly. But it's just like, I imagine that Sophie S beats him at this point, potentially. I think Savannah probably beats him. I think Rizzo probably beats him. And I'd even go so far as to say I think maybe even Sage could beat him. So, between Sage and Sophie B as the last person in that trio for the final 3 is really a tough one to try and guess. And then that, plus the fact that we're trying to account for a world where Steven wins, is part of the reason I actually have him a little bit lower than you this week. And, you know, it's just an interesting one for Steven, because, yeah, again, as you mentioned, he has a pretty decent amount of presence in the season, but the numbers, in terms of confessional count, kind of sell the tale of the opposite. So, like, it's this weird situation where we feel more impacted by a player than the actual screen time we're getting for that player. And I almost feel like he talks so much in group settings and has so many fun moments that you think about him more in terms of just actually seeing him on screen than actual confessional and, like, screen time where he's actually talking. So, kind of an interesting situation for Steven. Like the guy, I think he's a very fun character, but he just doesn't really do it for me in terms of trying to predict a winner.
Yeah. Yeah, no. At this point, I don't know. It kind of feels like a 2-horse race for me, anyways. So, that being said, do you wanna lead us into our next player?
Yeah. We both have the same top 2, and it is unchanged for the last 2 weeks. Again, it's Savannah, and with Savannah, it was a pretty quiet episode in terms of confessionals. Hasn't been really a ton since the Big 13 bomb we got in episode 8, but it felt like more, and I mean, the content we got was pretty straight to the point. It was pretty solid content, and it led to the outcome that ultimately Savannah would have not been perfectly happy with, but settled on being pretty content with, in the fact that, you know, it was her and Rizzo's idea to split up Juwan and Sage and kind of not have to worry about who's the idol going on between Christina and Steven, and that came to fruition. So it was a pretty good, solid episode for Savannah, even though only 3 confessionals, but still holds on to the #1 amount for the season, and I just don't see a world where someone passes Savannah for that until Savannah's booted. If Savannah's booted.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I thought she had some, like, very interesting moments this episode, like, particularly with Christina, and just asking her straight to her face, like, oh yeah, you want to work with me? Okay, who are you voting for? And Christina is just like, well, and she's just so flustered by being asked straight up, like, who are you voting for? And I think it's a really it's a really funny moment because from Savannah's perspective, she knows that Christina's voting for her. She knows that this whole, oh, let's vote together, let's try to maybe make something work between us, isn't genuine, and she's just she calls her bluff, and she's like, okay, well, I mean, if you want to be loyal to me, if you want to try to work with me, then you shouldn't have a problem telling me who you're voting for. And, obviously Christina does have a problem with it, because she plans on voting for Savannah. And then that, just combined with her, sort of sitting on the beach with Jawan and being like, man, this is the first tribal where I'm not immune, this is gonna be such a great test of our loyalty to each other, and you better not betray my trust, knowing full well that that's what he plans on doing. Is just she's a little bit of a shit disturber. She's rage baiting these people.
And do you know what it reminded me of quite a lot? It just felt like something Tyson would do, which I thought was so awesome.
Yeah, I could honestly see that comparison a little bit.
Because, it just felt like I know you're lying to me, but I'm not going to tell you to your face, and I'm just going to fuck with you. It just felt so poetic as well. Just the shocked face that she was giving, and she turned over. Did you do this, Jawan? Wow. Crazy. What a good move, Jawan. And then just knowing full well that when those final two votes were yet to be read, exactly where they were going.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. It's kind of hard to imagine, she's been such a villainous presence on the season. It's you're almost tempted to drop her a little bit lower just because it feels like a lot of people really don't like her, and it's kind of, that's usually not a great sign. But everybody also seems to be kind of terrified of her, and I think that shows a certain level of respect from at least most of the players left in the game. And I think it could be a situation where somebody kind of brings her to the final three thinking, everybody's pissed off at Savannah, they're not going to want to vote for her, and fail to account for how much respect the players on the jury might have for Savannah. The fact that she was able to strike, the fact that she's able to strike fear in the other players so much, definitely could actually be a good sign for her jury chances. And when you consider all the personal content that she's gotten to sort of round her out as a character and make her more rootable, she's definitely someone who I could see winning, obviously, considering where I have her on my rankings. But she's definitely been a very interesting character. We haven't really had anyone quite like her in the new era, and it's definitely exciting. But I don't think there's anything else really for me to say about Savannah. So, do you want to introduce our next player?
Absolutely. And with the number one spot for probably 3 or 4 straight weeks now, we have the RIZ-GOD Riz God Baby.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so awesome to see again another episode where his plan goes into fruition. He gets the result he wants. And this time, pulls out some more shenanigans that we hadn't seen yet. I mean, fake idol play just to test the jury, or to test the other players' reactions, and just see how that goes. Awesome idea. Love it. Worked out beautifully. Knew from that, alright, I'm good. I can keep my idol. Don't have to worry about it. And just another beautiful Rizzo episode.
Yeah. I have to imagine that Savannah was in on it. But could you imagine if she wasn't? Could you imagine if she had no idea that he was going to do that, and then he just plays a fake idol on her? That would have been... That would have been crazy.
That would have been insane. But yeah, no, it's just so funny to see how that worked out, and, I mean, how beautifully that play ends up looking.
And the fact that she has Jeff, or the fact that he has Jeff actually confirm that it's not a real idol. He gives it some time. He lets everybody think that he played it for as long as he possibly can, and then when Jeff is like, "This is not a hidden immunity idol," this just the pure shock on everyone's faces. And I know like you caught on, or someone definitely caught on to the fact that that wasn't what his idol looked like. So
I realized it right away. Yeah.
yeah,
It was pretty apparent having actually seen it on the TV edit what it looked like before, and then going, huh, that's not quite right. I remember it looking slightly differently the one or few times I actually saw it.
yeah, but it's interesting because we never really see him make this fake idol. We never see him talk about potentially using it. So it's just kind of it's like why does that idol not look right? Like, is he playing a fake idol? Why is he playing a fake idol? What's going on? And just the way it played out on screen was just so exciting. And Rizzo, I guess you could say he has a lot of aura. He has a lot of Riz. It's funny, I was telling my friend about Rizzo on this season because she doesn't really watch Survivor, but I like to talk about it with her, and I was talking about how many times now Rizzo has just kind of Jedi mind tricked people into voting the way he wanted them to, like, particularly with MC and Alex, and she was just like, oh my god, he really does have Riz. So maybe the Riz God moniker is more appropriate than we thought.
I mean, it's almost required for someone who has that cool of a nickname to live up to the nickname.
The jury's still out on if it's a cool nickname or if it's or if it's a really lame one. But sometimes, the coolness of a nickname can be determined by how much you earn it. And well, the Riz God wasn't taken seriously in the preseason. I think people are going to have to take him seriously now. And I've seen a lot of people come around on the Riz God. I've seen a lot of people say, you know what, I didn't think I was going to like this guy. I thought he was going to be annoying. But he's been, one of my favorites on the season. And I don't know that I necessarily thought that I was going to be annoyed by him. But he's definitely exceeded my expectations by quite a bit. And I also just think it's really funny that the Riz God is genuinely one of the best players on the season. Like, that's just so perfect. I don't think it could have gone any better for us as fans.
Yeah, I can't really contest that. It's just an amazing outcome to see Rizzo evolve into such a solid Survivor player that we're probably going to get at least one more Rizzo season if CBS is doing any justice to the fans. And then B, the outcome of him winning being, one that we consider the most likely for a good chunk of the season is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Just the way he's been playing the game has been very fun to watch, and his theatrics at Tribal Council too. The way that he went up and played that fake idol, the fact that he was like, "Hey Jeff, can I say a few words to the class?" and just like, I don't know, he was just he put on a whole show with it, and it was just made all the better by the fact that the idol he played didn't even end up being real, and he still has it, and it's. Like, I was almost disappointed when he got up to play, because I was like, I don't think he needs to. Like, is he going to misplay his idol after all of this build-up? But no, he holds on to it, and I think what we're leading up to is that he's either going to hold on to it to the end of the season, and that's going to be a massive case for him to make to win, or, maybe he ends up needing to play it, but I think if that ends up happening, I think he is going to, and I think it's going to be a successful idol play, and that'll be very interesting to see. But I don't know. It's almost hard to imagine him not playing in the next episode. The only thing I think could maybe happen to go wrong for him would be if Soph really does flip and play her Knowledge is Power on him. That's something that would definitely throw a wrench into things. But even if that happens, I just have to imagine that somehow he makes it out alive. And I don't know how that might happen, but there's probably another idol hidden out there. Maybe we see the Riz God dual wield his idols Um, I don't know. That's something that I only really just realized, though, is the fact that with Christina playing her idol, there's probably going to be another one hidden. Um, do you think that's going to come into play? Like, do you think anybody's going to find that, or do you just think it's going to kind of stay on the island?
Honestly, I think that we probably get at least one episode without someone finding the idol, and if we do get an idol find, it'll probably be closer to either like the beginning of 2 episodes from now or the finale, like right at the start of it, where it comes into play. But I think if we get the idol, it'll be next episode or 2 episodes from now, and that'll be it. If we don't get it, I don't know. I almost just don't see it coming a thing. I just don't see why or how that would make sense at this point with how they've edited it.
The big thing that I could see is, like, Rizzo finds a second idol, like, that could be, or Savannah finds the idol, like, and then maybe Soph does even steal Rizzo's idol, but they end up just using their second idol to get through that tribal. That's definitely a possibility in my mind. And if that did happen, that would be, like, mind-blowing, but aside from that, I don't know, I didn't expect Christina to find the idol, and I didn't really expect it to be sort of this unceremonious, she just kind of plays it on the wrong person and doesn't end up going home for it or anything. But, I mean, we'll see. I'm almost certain that we're going to get some sort of search next episode, whether someone finds it or not. That being said, I mean, not a whole heck of a lot else to talk about. Sophie gets her second immunity win. We see the formation of a boy band, only for the boy band members to all go and target each other.
And not only that, but for one of them to go home.
Yeah.
We had 3 boys on a bench for 1 episode, and then immediately went home.
Yeah, and it was funny because they were talking about, well, 3 boys on a bench, we just formed, but we're gonna have to vote out Steven, and then it ends up being Juwan because of some crazy idol shenanigans. It is an interesting situation though, where, like, with Christina's idol, had she not had it, Steven probably would have gone home. But instead it's Juwan. You know, it's kind of interesting. The fact that her idol kind of saves her closest ally, but then another one of her allies goes anyways. It's just it's not something you see a lot on Survivor, I guess. But yeah. But yeah, all in all, I think that just about wraps up my general thoughts on the episode overall. Do you think we're gonna get a 3 boys on a bench concert anytime soon?
Probably not. I think it was a funny little goofy moment, but I think that'll kind of just die out.
What about 2 boys on a bench? Do you think...
Just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, Juwan was really the heart and soul of the band.
Not only that, but, like, he's also just the energy, I find, for a lot of people. And I think a narrative that might appear more going forward is how important he was to the camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I just imagine that becoming something more noticeable going forward. Because, like, one thing that I will bring up as well that wasn't really talked about yet so far, we had the rights negotiation this episode, and Juwan seemed to really be the only person that was considering stepping up to the plate for the tribe. And actually tried to outright negotiate with Jeff so that he could lower the amount of people and didn't have to try and convince half the tribe to sit out, really, instead of just, like, one other person.
Yeah. And we get some Angelina-level negotiation skills come out of that.
Yeah, except didn't Angelina succeed in the end?
I mean, I mean, she made an offer. She made an offer that was like terrible, like for herself. Honestly, like just giving up literally everything. Didn't even like try to start off small. And then Jeff was like, "Nah, but if you want to sit out, I can give you guys rice." And then she sat out for rice and never brought it up again.
Yeah. Whereas at least, like, that was an outcome where, you know, rice was achieved. Unfortunately, got no rice for the efforts of Jawan, which is a shame.
Nope. He just couldn't make a deal with Uncle Jeff. Unfortunate. But, yeah, you know, I like Jawan. Sad to see him go, but I'm excited for the next episode. And excited to see how things move forward from here. That being said, unless you have any final words, Connor?
You boys out?
So true. The tribe has spoken.